guys, welcome you all. Today we'll be starting with a new unit of determination of income and employment. This is a very important unit to understand because you will get to know what actually our economy composes of. Okay, so not wasting with a much of time, so we'll be covering with aggregate demand, aggregate supply, equilibrium of aggregate demand and supply, and then last we'll be doing with multiplier. What does we'll become concluding in AD and AS are like its components, important points that are included in this, MPS, MPC as per aggregate demand and supply, and APC and APS as per demand and supply again. And then we'll also be doing with the definitions of all these things. That is the most important thing, so I do not need to include that in the components that are covered. Okay, so now coming on with our chapter. Starting with our very first point of aggregate demand, what does aggregate demand mean? The very important thing that you should know, that whenever we are talking of aggregate demand, aggregate supply or anything, we will be considering one particular year. So anything that you will be doing is in a year. That is very much important. So remember this. Okay, so coming on with aggregate demand with our very first topic. Aggregate demand, as we have done in microeconomics with demand definition, that what does demand, that in that pattern we have included a single person who is demanding, but here we will be talking of a whole country. So another important point will be country. We are involving the whole country here. Okay, so now aggregate demand, that means it will refer to total value of what? Final goods and services. Okay, total value of final goods and services that are demanded by whom? By the economy, okay, in a year. So that will make up with your definition, and you can note it down as well, that aggregate demand refers to total value of final goods and services that are demanded in the economy in a year. Okay, so or you can also state it in other ways, that aggregate demand refers to the amount of expenditure. Okay, now we have done in national income and its aggregates that either you can calculate your GDP with the help of consumption, or you can calculate it with the help of production, or you can just calculate it with the help of expenditure. So we can always calculate it other way around, that aggregate demand is also referred to as total amount of expenditure that all the sectors are ready to spend on final goods and services. Remember that we have learned in national income accounting that we do not include intermediate products whenever we are calculating any gross domestic production or anything. So here also, whenever you're calculating aggregate demand, that is a part of your GDP, national income, because you are doing it at a national level. So aggregate demand will be either your total expenditure or your total consumption. That consumption refers to demand here, demanding consumption, that people want to demand, that people want to consume. Whatever you want to consume, you will demand, obviously. So all that things are included in aggregate demand. Then coming on to second of components, aggregate demand. What are the components of aggregate demand? Now very first component, okay, so aggregate demand has a formula that C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So what does this C indicate? This C is the consumption demand of people in the economy. Okay, so second, what is this investment? What is this I? This I is the investment that is done by people. What is this G? G is the government demand, or you can say government expenditure. Then X minus M is net exports, that is exports minus imports, the net value. So we are calculating it as net exports. So now you can understand it very easily. What does the component mean? That what all do we include in the formula? Very first thing, private consumption demand. Now what do we mean by private consumption demand? That is all the consumer that are demanding for goods and services in their household in of a country at a level of income that is during a year. So we are calculating private consumption demand with this. So you can write down with the formula. Private consumption demand will refer to that demand of all the consumers for goods and services by the households of a country at a level of income during a year. Coming on to with private investment demand, again, the investment that is, or we can say it as expenditure that private firms are doing, okay, to purchase a new capital. Yeah, investment, either you as a single person, if I am doing investment, that means I am either purchasing something for my future use also. So here again, private investment demand will also refer to expenditure by the private firms on purchase of new capital goods. Remember, capital goods, that is machinery or anything that is used as a part of your investment. Third is government demand of obviously for goods and services only. So government demand refers to expenditure by government on the purchases of consumer goods. Okay, then our net exports, that is the obvious value that I have just told you, that X minus M. X refers to exports whereas M refers to imports. So net exports means the net demand of goods and services of that is by rest of the world, that is whatever we are exporting minus the import. So we will be getting this formula of aggregate demand, that is C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So now I'll be doing with the graph for aggregate demand. Now AD refers to aggregate demand, and why we are making it a bit up from the axis, this is because we will be doing further with the components of C. Although other things also have their components, but you will not be understanding it at this level, because this you will be going through in a higher studies if you are going for masters or graduation in economics, or you are opting for economics as a subject. So you will be understanding it in macroeconomics in higher studies. So now we will be doing only with the C part. So C refers to how we'll be calculating with C. C refers to C bar plus CY, or you can just say it as BY, where B refers to the change with the level of income that you are consuming. Okay, consumption change with the level of income. As your income increases, your consumption also increases, but at a certain level. But this C bar is your autonomous consumption, like whenever I'm consuming or not consuming anything, if I'm not having any income at a particular period of time also, but still I will be consuming because I cannot live, or I need something for my survival, right? If I am living in a house, I require food to eat also. If I am living on road also, I require something to eat. That is my basic requirement. So if I'm not having any income also, then also I will have to feed myself. That is under my C bar, that is my autonomous consumption, and that level is fixed. That's why we mark it as C bar. Or also as our income investments are constant, so we also prepare a line that is called I, which is parallel to X axis, and that is also again equivalent to our C bar many times, or many times it's not also. So that doesn't make a difference. But yes, see, I is parallel to X axis. On X axis we measure with our income, okay, and on Y axis we measure with our consumption and investment. So investment is our line parallel to x-axis, because investment goes hand in hand with income. As you have more income, you will invest more, but at a certain period of time only, that is in long run, or when you require to have more aggregate demand, then you will have to invest more. But at a simple stage, we consider that income and investment goes hand in hand. That is, your investment will be constant throughout. That is a parallel line from your x-axis. Aggregate demand is uplifted curve. That is, it is this part will be your autonomous consumption, and then you will be drawing with AD curve. Okay, so this all is composed in aggregate demand in its components. Now, coming up with propensities to consume, that are again a part of aggregate demand only. So we will be doing with average propensities to consume here. Okay, so what do we mean by average propensity to consume? That is APC. APC is basically C by Y. That is, as you are doing with the consumption part directly, so you will be what actually your consumption is with your income level, and that ratio you will be calculating in APC. Okay, so APC refers to ratio between consumption and your income. Coming up with a diagram and its features, average propensity to consume has following features like APC, as I stated, that it is the ratio of consumption to income. That is how much your consumption is changing with level of income. So now what values can APC take? First of all, APC can be greater than 1 also. Why? Because your income can be greater than your your consumption can be greater than your income level. So your average propensity to consume will be greater than 1 at that particular time. But your APC can also be equal to 1. That is, when your consumption level is equal to your income level. Third, your APC can less than 1 also, can be less than 1, because your income can be greater than what you're consuming. For example, if I take of poor section has more consumption than their income. Whereas if I talk of middle class people, they have equivalent to their income only. That it's not necessary that whatever they are having in their income, all of it is not consumed or they are saving. Mostly their income is consumed. And when we are talking in terms of rich people, it's never possible that they consume all their income. So uh, we can compare it as poor, middle and rich also. Now, coming on to another value, EPC can never be 0. Why? Because your income, whenever, as I stated, that your consumption is C bar plus DY. That is, some part depends on your income, whereas some is always there whenever you are even not having any income. So, your APC can never be 0. Okay. Another point, when your income increases, your average propensity to consume will decrease. As I stated before, that your consumption increases, but still your APC will decrease, because whenever your income increases at till a particular point, you consume till your necessities are over. But after your necessities gets over, you will consume only your that much part that you require. You will not consume extra, right? So your as soon as your income increases, your APC starts to decline. Okay. Then coming up with marginal propensity to consume, that is MPC. MPC refers to, as I stated, marginal propensity to consume is its full form. But what actually is this formula? That is delta C by delta Y. That means the change in consumption with the change in income. That is, one additional income level will bring what amount of change in your consumption. Okay, so now with the in diagram also, as I stated before, that is, this is your AD, then when your C is this and your Y is this, then C by Y will be your APC. But when your C increases with the level of Y, what is the change in this? What is this gap? So if this is your new consumption and income, that your MPC will be C bar minus C upon Y bar minus Y. Okay, the change that is happening with the level of income, so you are calculating it with MPC over here. Now, what values can MPC take? MPC will always be between 0 to 1. Why? Because either your change can be equal to your consumption level, or either your consumption level is 0 and your income is fully saved. All right, so the varies can be in between only. You cannot have a positive change whereas your income is not changing at all. Okay, that can never happen. So if your entire income is increased, your increased in if entire increased income, if I say that is consumed, then my value will be equal to 1. Okay, then next, if I say that my entire increased income is not consumed at all, then my value will be 0. That's why it will lie between 0 to 1. Okay, now coming up with our second point, that is aggregate supply. So I will be changing it here and I'll be doing with aggregate supply now. This is very much important to understand what aggregate supply means. Okay, because if you are understanding what is the supply, then you will understand how we'll be calculating with our equilibrium level and how do our point of inflection is calculated, because this is a very important point in terms of exams. Mostly it's asked in exams, what is the relationship and each and everything. So we'll be doing with all that also when after we cover all the topics. Now, what do we mean by aggregate supply? So aggregate supply refers to the money supplied. Okay, because see, supply directly refers to money value at aggregate level. So aggregate level will be of supply will refer to as money value of total output that is available in the economy for purchase during a particular period of time. Again, period of time is very much important. Okay, then now we can also say that aggregate supply represents national income of a country. Okay, so that's why we can say that aggregate supply curve is 45-degree line, because your income is this and consumption plus savings. So what do you do with your income? Either you consume or you save. So whatever your aggregate supply will be, either you will be consuming or you will be saving. That's why your aggregate supply curve is 45-degree line. That is, whatever you are your income is, either you will save or consume. That's why it is a 45-degree line, that every change in income is equal to consumption or savings sum. Again, we can have a formula out of it also, that Y is equal to C plus S, that is consumption plus savings. Okay, now earlier as I have discussed with you that AD is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Alright, and if I don't consider these, then my Y, and I am doing with Y, so Y aggregate demand is also equal to Y. Your Y is equal to C. If I say that plus I plus G plus X minus M, so this will be my what I'll say is this will be my formula for AD and this will be my formula for AS. Now doing it in a short so that you can have a broad idea that how we will be calculating with the equilibrium level. Okay, whenever you're calculating with the equilibrium level, if I draw it in this only, then your AD will be this, right? After a particular autonomous section, and this will be my equilibrium point. How do I will calculate equilibrium point? This will be a point where these both things are equal. And if I'm not taking g x minus m, all these values are 0, then my y will be either consumption or investment, right? Government expenditure and exports are like secondary items when we do in broader terms. Initially we have consumption and investment only. So aggregate demand is either consumed or invested in somewhere else. So if I equate them, then I can say that at equilibrium level of point, if I am equating it, that means I am going for equilibrium level, right? So if I am doing with this, then C plus S is equal to C plus I, and C gets cancelled. Therefore, I get that at equilibrium level of point, savings will be equal to investment. Okay, so whenever I am talking for equilibrium level, okay, remember that at equilibrium level, savings is equal to investment. Okay, so we will be doing it in detail in further topic when we will be calculating with our equilibrium. Now coming on with my aggregate supply again, we are studying with average propensity to supply now, that is APS and APC, that is average propensity to APS, because we are doing with average propensity to, what we are doing is savings, because whenever you're consuming, the other thing you are doing is savings. Whatever you are consuming, you either consume, whatever your income is, you either consume or either you save. So you can either consume or you can either save. So if you are not consuming, then you are saving. Okay, so how can we calculate with our average propensity to save? That's a simple formula, again S by Y. So average propensity to save is S by Y, and again now if I'm talking in terms of this aggregate supply curve, whatever I say, that whatever I am consuming in terms of aggregate demand, right? I was doing it from here. This was my AD, right? This was my AD. So from where I am consuming this C bar part, I am consuming it from previous savings. No, that part will be said as this savings for me at this particular period of time. So this will be my S bar, negative S bar, or so whatever I can say that APC can never, APS can never be 1, because whatever I'm savings, my savings are, it cannot be fully equal to Y. As I said in earlier that APC can be equal to 1, because whatever you're consuming, that can be whole of your income, but whatever your income is, you cannot save whole of your saving, make it as savings, as because you need something for your autonomous consumption, right? You cannot either save all your income and you can say, okay, I can live without eating food and having shelter, or I can live without water. No, you require something to consume, right? So that part is our dis savings. So your APS can never be 1. That is our main feature. APS can never be equal to 1. Second point comes as APS can be equal to 0, because it's possible that you are not saving at all and you are consuming all your income, right? That we have done in consumption also. So second part, APS can be equal to 0. Third, APS can be negative also. Why? Because your disk savings are negative. So APS can be negative. And fourth point, APS increases with level of income. That is, whenever your income increases, your savings will increase. Okay. So APS, or these are four main points, and you can note them as well, that APS can never be equal to 1. APS will always be, can be 0, can take negative values also, and as well as when your APS can will be increasing when your income increases. So it's a very important point. So you need to keep in mind whenever you calculating APC or APS. Okay, so again, with one important feature, that as we have done with APC as well as APS, so now I am telling you that APC plus APS is always equal to 1. Either you consume or you save, as we have done it before. So your and you can derive it also. How? C plus S is equal to Y, as your aggregate supply says. Now, if I divide it by Y and Y, then what I am getting is, this is my APC, this is my APS, and this is equal to 1. So, I am getting derivation of this formula. Okay. Now, coming up with marginal propensity to save, that is MPS. Now, MPS. What does MPS has a formula also, and what does it indicate? That is change in your savings with the level of change in your income. That is delta S by delta Y. Again, as we have done with delta C by delta Y, that is our MPC. So similar is our formula for MPS also, change in savings with level of change in income. Now, important points for MPS. Again, MPS plus MPC is equal to 1. How? Now again, if I said that C plus S is equal to 1, right? So that if I say that change in consumption plus change in saving will be equal to change in income. Now if I divide it by change in income, then what I am getting is that is MPC plus MPS, which is equal to 1. So I will get the relationship that MPC plus MPS is equal to 1. Alright, now, so this relationship is very much important, as you can understand what actual values can APC or MPS take. Again, now you can understand that MPC and MPS are both the change in income. So MPS value will always be between 0 to 1, as well as MPC's value will always be equal to 0 or equal to 1, or lie between that only. So, and your whatever your value will be for MPC, the other value will be for MPS, that will be equal, and sum will be equal to 1. Okay, so now this all is in our first and second part of aggregate supply and demand. Now we will be deriving savings curve. Okay, from what? How will we calculate our savings curve? Basically, as we can see, it is very much important, because you need to know what actually derives our savings curve, because there will be a question, 6-marker question for calculating savings curve, and as well as there can be a 6-marker question for deriving demand curve as well. Okay, So similar way will be for demand curve as we are doing it for savings curve. Just you need to get concentrated with this topic. Okay, so I am drawing with the curve so that you can understand it. This is my 45-degree line. So I will be writing here 45 degree. This is my disinvestment curve where my savings are negative. So I will be marking with negative S. Or what I can do is I can mark with negative C because C bar is equal to this C bar is always equal to minus C bar, and these curves are parallel to each other mostly. Okay, why? Because now my intersecting point and these point will be at same point. You can see that my beta point will or I can say that beta or B, you can say beta 1 and B will be perpendicular to each other. They lie on the same point, just parallel to each other. This is my S curve, this is my C curve, and this is my C curve, and this I can say as my Y curve, which is equal to C plus S. Okay, now how do I calculate it? First of all, C, if I say that C and C1, this is my C1, and this I can say as S1. Okay, and this will be my O over C1C S1S. So my first step will be C1C is consumption curve on y-axis. Okay. Similarly, I will draw now a 45-degree line. My second step will be I will be drawing a 45-degree line from the point of origin that I have marked with O and which intersects C1C at point B. Then what I will be doing is I will be drawing a perpendicular from B point to B1. Okay. And then I will be drawing a parallel line from C1C that is passing through B1 point, and I'll draw this line. So I will get my savings curve. Okay. Similarly, what I'll do is to derive consumption curve, I'll do just the opposite. That first I will draw this minus C bar, that is minus C bar, and then from C minus I will take S1 point which is intersecting my x-axis at B1 point and then stretching it to S. Okay. Then what I'll do is the point which is intersected over x-axis, I will be drawing a perpendicular that passes through my origin line, that is my OY line at B point, and then the point which is here, I will draw a parallel line from this line, SS1 line, which will draw it as C1C line. So I will get consumption curve. Okay. For S1 curve, that is my savings curve, I will draw intersection perpendicular from B point, and to get C1C curve, that is my consumption curve, I will draw perpendicular from B1 point. Okay, so this is mostly a 6-marker question or a 4-marker question, and this question is mostly in exam. Okay, so it is very much important. Now coming up after the aggregate demand and supply, now coming up with investment. What actually is investment? We can say that investment function is mostly relationship between investment and income. What actual level you are investing from your income will be said to as investment function, whereas investment is referred to as expenditure that you are incurring to buy a new product. Okay, so whatever you are buying to for investing in your capital asset. Basically, that is, if you want to do with a new business, then what will you spend to work with your business, right? That is your investment.